the Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Welcome to another edition of the Spot Track Podcast, presented by Authentic Audio Productions. Supercharge your podcast with high-quality professional services, organic content creation, and brand promotion using this one-stop shop service. Authentic Audio Productions takes the work out of your hands so you can focus solely on your business. Visit AuthenticAudioPro.com today. That's AuthenticAudioPro.com. My name is Mike Ginnitti. It is Monday, September 2nd. The NFL is here. College football has begun. Plenty of bangers already on the books. NFL starts Thursday. We will probably get to our full NFL preview Thursday with Brandon on that show. But today we're going to bounce around quite a bit because that's what the sports world is telling us to do. Of course, we've got a couple of extensions to talk about. We'll focus with Brandon Aiyuk deal here to start. I've got a Steph Curry conversation because he kind of quietly tacked on another $62.5 million to his contract in Golden State. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Scottie Scheffler as well. Major League Baseball free agent previews are live. 2025 NFL free agent previews are live on SpotTrade.com. Keith Smith has NBA offseason recaps, 2025 cap space stuff live on SpotTrade.com. Taylor, our NWSL aficionado, has been crushing this new free agent window and the list of players that are going to become available. She has a precursor on what this new CBA is going to look like. By the way, if you haven't heard, no draft in the NWSL going forward. It's a true free agent, wild, wild west. So plenty more to get to when that becomes fully finalized, but she's got plenty of details live on SpotTrack.com and plenty more to come. We broke down CeeDee Lamb's deal. We broke down Brandon Aiyuk's deal. I'll talk about that here in just a few seconds, but lots of reading to do, lots of listening to do on the various channels that include SpotTrack.com. Let's talk San Francisco. This Aiyuk stuff, not that it really became a headache, but I've said this kind of quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. I'm sure they're thrilled to get this done. I'm going to tell you based on the numbers, I'll bury the lead. They're happy from the team perspective that this contract is what it is. They got bigger fish to fry. Now, number one, McCaffrey is dinged up. I don't even think he is he 50-50 right now for this upcoming game this week? As a fantasy owner, that's sort of how I'm expecting the status is to go. That's problem number two. I would think, well, Ricky Pearsall getting shot, probably problem number one for everybody, including him. And good to hear that he's been released and appears to be on track to be fine. But they got a Trent Williams problem. And I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but this bears repeating because this is the NFC favorite. And they were about to start the season without a left tackle because of a contract dispute. And this is a player who has dealt with contract disputes before and has essentially won. All right. He did this to the Washington. I believe they were the Redskins still in 2019. Sat out as many games as they could sit out, forfeited over $5 million. Right up to that trade deadline. Came back, secured himself a ticket out of Washington that offseason. Found his way to San Francisco into a 6-for-138. Couple of things, and the reason I'm bringing this up is A, it's important to the season, and B, there's a lot of people looking at his contract on Spot right now and seeing there's $77 million left over 3 years. This is not an overall money problem. He is probably not displeased with the money that's available to him. He's 36 years old. He's had an injury here or there. He's got nothing guaranteed. Now, you all know from listening to this that the second we get to Thursday, essentially Tuesday, actually, tomorrow, his $20 million salary for 2024 will become fully guaranteed as a vested veteran. So that's out of the way. He's thinking next year. Okay. He's thinking about when Brock Purdy signs, and he's going to need a left tackle again, obviously. Where's my pocket? This was a heavily backloaded contract, as San Francisco tends to like to do at times. Many teams like to do at times. This was about getting him over $23 million a year. They added a $33 million salary to 2026, his age 38 season, to kind of fluff this thing together. We've talked about that quite a bit. It's as easy as taking some money out of that deal at that salary, which will never see the light of day, and pulling it into either today or 2025 with some sort of guarantee, and more guarantee that can lock in next April 1st, which is the vesting date for San Francisco contracts. That's what this is about. This is not about a brand new deal. This is not about handing him a huge signing bonus, though that could be part of it. And as we've told you before, they've already kind of showed their hand, San Francisco, now with this Aiyuk extension, obviously, but that's not what they're looking for here, this Trent Williams situation. They're looking for the Christian McCaffrey, sweeten the pot, pull some money out of 2 years from now, bring it into now, bring it into next year. Let's wrap it up with a little bit of a guarantee, or at least an injury guarantee, right? And then we can go ahead and go play football. That's what's going to have to happen here. I assume something gets done within the next 24 hours, because I cannot imagine throwing Brock Purdy out there with a 5th round pick at left tackle. But we've seen 2 teams do this before. I wouldn't think the 49ers want to be that team right now, but they are headed in that direction. And that is, and has been, I believe, problem number 1 for them. Brandon Aiyuk is done. He's locked in for 3 years. That price for 3 years is $76 million. If I told you that about a month and a half ago, do you think Aiyuk signs the contract? I'm not sure, okay? Because when I put it up against a lot of other contracts, it's got its goods and it's got its bads. Now, I'm happy he signed it. I think the 49ers are thrilled that he signed it. This is a true 3 year, $76 million contract with a massive, thick black line of demarcation at that point of the contract. The remaining 2 years, they're not fluffy. It's a pretty balanced pay flow. But there is a very easy world where the 49ers can get out after that point and not have to pay 28 and change in 2027 and 30 million in 2028. With that said, we could look at this from the player's perspective and say, all right, I'm going to make 76 million over the next couple of seasons, which is markedly more than my 5th year plus a tag. So mission accomplished in that regard. And if I'm great and I'm the alpha on this team, and he very well could be, all right, because we're looking at his age 28 season in 2026. So if he's the guy, this could be McCaffrey's done, Kittle's gone, Debo's gone. We're talking about a Purcell and maybe another couple of draft picks or a free agent signing here or there. But Aiyuk might be the alpha on this offense come 2026. And if that's the thing, then you rip up the last 2 years, and at age 28, he's signing a big, massive extension against the cap hit, a league salary cap that's $300 million, $315 million heading into 2027. So it's good either way, in my opinion. It's balanced both ways. And after 3 seasons, one of 2 things probably happens. The team wins out and gets to get out of this thing pretty much scot-free, or Aiyuk gets to rip this thing up and get into something much bigger, or certainly cap adjusted, much bigger numbers at that point in time. So I don't think this places too much of a dent into anybody. And oh, by the way, to get into the weeds a little bit here, it's a triple bonus structure. So it's a $23 million signing bonus today. It is a $22.8 million option bonus in 2025. And it's a $24.9 option bonus in 2026. And as you've heard me say quite a bit, with a lot of these contracts this past offseason, once they go double, triple bonus, we're going to talk about low cap hits. And that's what we have. $5.7 million this year, $11.1 million next year, $16.2 million in 2026. So for that 3 years, $76 million cash, we're only talking about $32 million worth of actual salary cap that has to hit the books across the next 3 years. And the rest of that gets dumped out into dead cap to walk away from him or to extend him going forward. That's the price you pay with push and proration down the line. That's what you're doing. But for a team that's contending, for a team that's going to have to slide a quarterback contract onto the books next offseason, this is the best way forward. And certainly the way that many, many teams have been operating now for the better part of 4 or 5 seasons. So triple bonus, low cap hits, $76 million cash for the next 3 seasons. That's the practical guarantee. He gets $45 million of that guaranteed up front, which is all of this year, most of next year. And then by next April 1st, again, that's the trigger date for San Francisco contracts. The remaining $31 million through 2026 becomes fully guaranteed. And it becomes a true 3-year contract with a couple of pay-as-you-go structures after that. That's it. Not too complicated, not too bloated, not fluffy, very balanced, pay increases by about 5% each year. It's kind of a basketball contract in that regard. And it's probably exactly what the 49ers wanted to do all along. I don't know that I truly believe the narrative that this was the contract that was on the table in March and it's just been sitting there waiting for Aiyuk to sign it. I have to imagine there were some back and forth, a little bit at least. And, in the piece that I wrote for this on Spot Track, what I did is I really put it up against Amon-Ra St. Brown's contract in Detroit, because that's the clear and obvious comparison here. The cash flow is extremely different. And you can say that one team did it better than the other. So I just gave you the cash flow for Aiyuk. All right. Almost 50 through year 2, 76 through year 3, 104 million through year 4, if and when it gets to that point. Here's the St. Brown breakdown. Again, it's a 4-year extension with 1 year remaining on his rookie contract. So it's similar, though he had much, much less remaining on his rookie contract because he was in year 4 of a non-first round contract. Aiyuk was on his 5th-year option, which was a little bit over 14 million. So the cash flow for St. Brown through year 2, 35. That's 14 million less than Aiyuk. 63 over 3 years. That's 13 million less than Aiyuk. And 87 through 4 years. That is 17 million less than Aiyuk. Okay, so when you look at the numbers and you just look at the stats of these contracts, it looks like St. Brown with 77 million practically guaranteed did better than Brandon Aiyuk with 76 million guaranteed, and St. Brown's like 20.001 per year, and Aiyuk is a flat 20 million per year. Again, it looks like St. Brown did better. But when you get into the cash flow and the practicality of these contracts, Aiyuk's going to have to live this contract out through 4 seasons to see that 77 million guarantee. And through those 4 seasons, he's only going to make a little over 87 million. And I put only in bold italics. But in comparison, Aiyuk either walks away after 76 through 3 years and signs another contract that will be much more than 87 million over 4 years, or he plays out this contract, goes a year past his guarantees, and makes 104 million over 4 years, which is a ton more than what St. Brown's going to make in Detroit just to get through his practical guarantee and his potential outlook. Very different contracts, even though they look extremely close on the ranking boards, and it actually looks like St. Brown did better on the ranking boards than Aiyuk. Not the case. The devil is very much in the details here. And if I'm an agent looking at this and structuring these contracts, the Aiyuk contract is a massive win. It's truncated. It's compressed. He gets in and out. Or if he's not holding up his end of the bargain, the 49ers can get in and out. So everybody wins, like I said. But don't get fooled by looking at average per year and seeing that, Aiyuk came in slightly under St. Brown, so he got kind of screwed in that regard. He did not. He's going to make more money off this contract. He might be into his next contract a year earlier than St. Brown as well. 2 very important factors, obviously, when it comes to signing big extensions in the NFL at what has become just a massively loaded contract position with this wide receiver over the past 2 to 3 seasons. And I don't even think we're done, because the news coming out of Cincinnati is that the gas pedal has been pushed down even more on Jamar Chase to try to get something done before the season starts. We shall see. I've been not very bullish on that one for a long time because he is in year 4 of this 5-year rookie contract. So there's a $4 million salary plus a 5th-year option to go. We know T. Higgins is on that expensive franchise tag. We know Joe Burrow's in year 2 of his massive extension. And there's other mouths to feed. Trey Henderson, if they're to keep him around, going to need more than a sweet in the pot, which is what they did. We'll see what they have to do with the secondary and the offensive line to keep them happy for the next 3 to 4 seasons. But obviously keeping Chase under contract is the goal. I just don't know if it's the actual goal right now or if they're looking to wait till next offseason when T. Higgins probably hits the open market and won't account for any cap or cash on their books come March 12th next season. So that's one that we're still watching. Obviously, we're on Dak Prescott watch still. Though, man, the signs all point to nothing, right? They're far away. They haven't had good discussions. The negotiations are stale, even though at the same time we're hearing there's no deadline, so they could continue to negotiate in season. I hate that, by the way. I hope that's not the case for Dak, who's going to have to sit there in front of a microphone after every game and talk about this contract debate. But I told you a while ago, I'm sticking to my guns. It sure seems like Dak Prescott's going to be an available free agent on March 12th, and arguably the biggest free agent that this league has had in the modern era. I don't think there's really any question. We just don't see, we saw Cousins get there a couple times. Dak is just not that player. Dak is a perennial annual MVP candidate. He was the runner-up last year. He's going to win 12 games, in my opinion, again in that NFC East with this Dallas team because CeeDee's back in the toll, and they're fairly healthy across the board. He's going to be walking into a situation that's maximum leverage. He's already in one on his current contract with this current team. So you bring in 6 to 8 more teams that could be bidding him up, and sky's going to be the limit. So we're looking forward to that. I think that's where we're headed. But we'll see if Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals get something done here in the next 72 hours or so before this thing officially kicks off. Let's bring in Scott Allen and talk about a couple of other sports quickly. Scott, welcome. It's been a minute since we've had you on here, but it's kind of your downtime with the NBA and things like that. I actually have an NBA and a golf conversation to have here. Quickly, Steph Curry kind of really quietly added $62.5 million to his contract. They kind of buried the lead on that on a Friday afternoon. Oh, by the way, kind of thing. Is this just, there were some people out there that kind of called this the Kobe Bryant experiment where the Lakers just kind of did right by their superstar. And even if they're not going to be a great team, you want to make sure this guy's under contract and there's no dispute. Or is this kind of we just want to line these contracts up so that at some point in time, we can rip this Band-Aid off all at once, and the Steph Curry and the Draymond Green and this, maybe even probably the Steve Kerr era, all kind of go away at once, and we build the statues and then roll ourselves over to the next iteration of the Golden State Warriors and see what the hell we can do from there. What's your take on tacking on this year right now to Steph Curry at this time?
Yeah, I think it's that latter. Just lining everything up, 26, 27. That'll be guaranteed for Steph. You've got Wiggins and Green with player options, which at that juncture of their career, they're most likely opting into those values. Yeah. And then you've got Buddy Hield. He's on a player option, and he's got a player option at the back end of his career there. And Kyle Anderson, he's non-guaranteed in 26, 27. So after that, I mean, everything falls off the books. So essentially the Golden State Warriors are saying we're pushing this for probably the next at least 2 years, maybe going into 3, depending on where they are at that point.
All right, so here's the numbers. Steph Curry's 55.7 this year, 59.6 in 2025-26, and then that new $62.5 million salary in 2026-27. It pushes his career earnings over $532 million just on the court. Obviously, he has made buco more elsewhere and continues to make buco more elsewhere. I mean, where are we headed with this, Scott? Where are we headed? If we've got Steph Curry, who by the way, started off extremely slow, financially speaking. When he became a superstar, he was on a 4 for 44 or something like that. It was an unbelievable value. He had signed a team-friendly contract because he was injured. He was small. He hadn't really popped at all in terms of what we know now.
Yeah, so he had a lot of it. He had a lot of injury issues with the ankles and all that. They brought in some guys to really revamp his ankles to make them stronger. So yeah, he out of the gate, he was not the superstar until the middle of that 4 for 44 rookie extension.
Yeah, he didn't get anywhere near the max rookie extension that most of these, I mean, basically all of these superstars get now, right? So a player like Anthony Edwards or insert Wembanyama, they're going to max out their whole career. I mean, we're headed toward billion-dollar players, right? That's not an inconceivable thing to say here. We're, before you and I hang up the cleats on this spot track thing, we're going to have a billion-dollar NBA player, right?
Oh, I think we'll be very close to that. Yeah, Keith and I have sort of talked about that as we're getting closer and looking at where these maximum salaries go. And I mean, we're looking at, in 4 4 to 5 years, a 5-year contract is going to be worth $500 million in itself because of the salary starting at 60 million and 70 million and whatever it might be. So yeah, we're going to be pushing it.
Oh man. All right. So I'm quickly looking at the career earnings. If I just run it through next year, LeBron's right at that 530 mark through next season. And then if he plays out the one more extension that he's got, he's going to be upwards of 580. That's sort of the max right now. We're going to need some of these older superstars to kind of re-up here to push ourselves past the $600 million mark. But, Tatum's going to extend again at least one more time. He's already in the mid 300s with his extensions. Tatum's going to be in the 600 millions. I think that's pretty easy to say. And he's kind of later in the game here. So this next crop is the one to watch to push into, I think, $750 million on the court. And then, like you said, it's only going to go up from there because the CBA is not slowing down. We expect 10% increases, right, on these salary caps. Yep. That's what you and Keith have sort of been told by the league, wink, wink. Hey, just kind of keep it steady there and everybody should be good to go. So if that's the standard, then I don't think it's inconceivable to have the $1 billion conversation, at least within the next couple of off seasons.
You mentioned Tatum on our career earnings. If you go to the career earnings on on Spot Track, you can fast forward through 2029, where Jason Tatum will be all the way up to 469 million, and then who knows? He may where we'll be in maybe another extension. He's going to be over.
He's only 31 years old then.
Right. So I mean and that's with him. Going through, like you said, that's not these rookies where they're getting that 30% super max. And then, we've seen players like LeBron play the 1-and-1 game where I'm going to max out and wait for that cap. Or, in Steph Curry's case, his 62 million is more than what the maximum is for the league because it's either the maximum amount or 105% of the previous year's salary. So he ended up getting the 105% of what he would have been making in that year. So he actually is jumping up over that max. So depending on how certain players play the system, they're going to be easily into the 750 million if they play their cards right and their production on the court justifies it.
I'm glad you brought that up because, I haven't had a chance really to talk with you or Keith too much in the past couple of months about sort of where things have gone contractually speaking with the NBA. It was a mediocre offseason, nothing too flashy this year. Generally speaking, we have a little bit more flair and pizzazz with this July 1st window. So just to kind of get back on track with it, where are we with the whole 1+1 contract? The scenario that LeBron and a few other superstars really ran into the ground for a half a decade or so, like you said, to ensure A, that they were maxing out percentage wise, but B, that they had control of their destiny and that there was maximum pressure on their front office to either, go all in or get me the hell out, which is essentially what they were saying on the player option part of it. So is that still in vogue, or are players more or less just going max term now?
Yeah, they're actually going more max term. There really hasn't been of recent a 1+1 kind of contract. And if it is, it's more of a 1 plus a club option where the team has the control over. But we really haven't seen a 1+1 with a player option that I can think of off the top of my head. Most of the contracts or extensions that have been coming in are for max term or for multiple years, where maybe in certain cases it's the third or fourth year is partial or non-guaranteed at the back end. And it depends on the player, but for the most part, we're seeing the extensions 4 years in length, 3 years in length, and such.
Last thing on this, and then we'll flip over to Scottie Scheffler and talk about a lot more money. In your opinion, because you're as deep into this as anybody, logging this stuff manually. I went through the iteration. I went through the juncture, the Jason Hayward contract with the Cubs and the Cardinals, that it just felt like there was going to be a shift, and that ownerships and front offices in Major League Baseball were going to put their foot down and say, we're just not going to throw money away anymore, at least not at the pace and with the frivolence we've been doing this. There's going to be some sort of ramification, or we're just going to start saying no in certain instances. Do you think, Scott, that the James Harden scenario for the past couple of years, where Daryl Morey basically threw him out the door after saying, yeah, we're all good here, we're going to pay you, the Bradley Beal contract for sure, which has to have front offices at least, that's got to be in the back of their mind, right? That's the John Wall contract kind of on steroids, because he's actually playing and taking up a roster spot for you, whereas Wall, you could just kind of put on the bench and pay him money. There's been enough instances, I think, where I think GMs can at least look around and say, all right, we got to be a little bit smarter here. We're getting bully balled, right? By this 24 to 30 superstar players in the league. And it's trickling down to 100 players. There's 100 players now that have above average contracts in this league. Do you get the sense at all with some of the incentives that you've had to put in and some of the non-guarantees and maybe even the club options, which I didn't even realize was becoming a thing, that do you think the front offices are getting their way a little bit now, maybe more than they were 5 years ago? Or is it just a cyclical thing, and at the end, the players are always going to win out, which is a good thing, by the way?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter in that case. Again, more and more, we're not having as many albatross contracts outside of, like you said, Beal and that kind of stuff. But teams are spending smarter with their money. We're sort of getting to an MLB era where they're getting extensions with some of their players ahead of time so that they're under term because of the new CBA and the rules that are in place. They're trying to get players under term to, a team friendly deal, but then the player is getting paid so that, in 3 or 4 years, that's a trade asset where, cap space is, we had 7 cap space teams this year. Next year, Keith has projected at 4 right now. So the cap space is going to be even lower, but that's because, trades are happening. The extensions are happening. We're seeing way more extensions happen, I think, than we have in the past because of teams looking forward and saying we have to have these guys under contract because those extension terms are our asset for trades down the future. We have to have that, especially for teams that are tax-paying teams. They have to have those, otherwise you're going to be in the Phoenix Suns situation where you're having to pay minimum salaries with, 3 super high paid guys. But I think overall the teams have been pretty smart about how they're allocating their money. The NBA has always been a pay for future production. They're going to pay they're going to take a chance on a rookie extension that you may not think that they're going to get an extension, but all of a sudden they come back at 4 for $40. Well, $10 million a year, which is a good deal. And then you can package that with someone that's a $7 million, and then you aggregate them together, and then you can bring back someone at 17. So that on top of, like you said, the salary cap going up $10 million or 10% every year, they have an outlook of, all right, we sort of know how we can spend for the foreseeable future. And so that's where we're at. There's always going to be the 1 or 2 albatross contracts moving forward. It's just nature of the beast. But I think for the most part, they're fine spending with what they have, especially when you have, you can see the superstars, you see the production every day in the gym, on the court, whatever it may be.
Last one. And certainly I'm going to get Keith's take on this as well, but you've talked to Keith quite a bit, and he is as connected to this stuff as anybody. And just to sort of wrap a bow on players that have taken longer contracts over the past couple of seasons, and maybe that's a bit of a surprise. Is there any sense within the channels, maybe from the team perspective, from an agent perspective, from Keith's perspective, that this bubble is going to burst at all?
Keith does not think so, at least from our conversation. The league is healthy. The cap keeps going up.
Because the media is going to try to poke holes every single week with ratings, right? Correct. Every single time that LeBron misses a primetime game and the ratings are garbage, We're going to be talking about how the NFL has 9 of the top TV shows in the fall, and the NBA is bottom 50 or whatever it's going to be. They're going to try like hell to deflate this league. And at the same time, we've got players making $70 million a year. So, you know, the devil is in the details here, right? And Keith kind of knows where we're headed. So you think it's all confidence right now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, however you want to swing the numbers, you know, whatever the ratings are now, they're probably way higher in the NBA than they were 10 years ago. I'm guessing on this. I'd have to go back and look. But, yeah, the cap does not seem to be it's not going to slow down. The max salaries are going to continue to go. Him and I have had this conversation of at what point does it taper off? Because when we're at $80 million for a starting salary, because it's based off of that, you know, cap, 35% is 35%, which is why on our sheets here on Spot Track, we have the percentage of the cap so that people can see 35% now was 35% 5 years ago. You do the math. Is that player worth 35% back then versus right now? So we sort of have to start looking at the percentage more than the dollar sign, because the numbers are going to continue to look gaudy because the cap's going to go up. And until the next CBA, if the owners do come back in that next CBA and say, hey, we've got to restructure, we have to reset, until that happens, it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, and there's probably more expansion to come as well.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, which is only going to help everybody's cause. All right, let's flip the switch to golf. Scottie Scheffler put a bow on his 2024 season, and really just a hell of a run, which I'll get to in a second. It's a $25 million payout for winning the Tour Championship. That's the most ever. It's an unbelievable balloon payment to finish off a season. And it's been an unbelievable financial season for him. Give me the numbers on Scottie Scheffler in 2024, and then we'll kind of put him up against some other things here going forward.
Yeah. So in total for on golf course earnings, it was $24.5 million. He earned $8 million for being in the top 10 for the Comcast Business Tour top 10. If you're in the top 10, you get a bonus. And then on top of that, the Tour Championship, he earned $25 million yesterday. So his total earnings is $57.52 in cash. And then when we throw in, some other, his majors. So that was, the 24.5 was excluding his majors. His majors was 4.65. So when we add up all that in total, he made $62.2 million in 2024 season.
And by the way, there's more to come, because we have not yet heard what the player impact bonus is going to be. And his is going to be friggin' massive, because him and Xander Schauffele carried this entire PGA, right? I mean, they won the day here for them, including the Olympics, which are not even factored in here, right, Scott?
Yeah. And to give you an idea, last year when he was on the PIP, he had $6 million in 23 and $5.5 million in 22. So
we can probably we can lowball $6 million and bring him up to $70 million earned this year in terms of what he did. Again, not including the Olympics and not including some other stuff he did on the side, but this is an all-time year. This is an all-time year. I quickly went back in our total earnings per year tool on Spot Track, and I kept going until I found somebody who had led the PGA in earnings 3 years in a row, because that's what Scottie Scheffler has done now. 2022, 2023, and 2024 all belong to Scottie Scheffler. I know you can guess the name, but how far back did I have to go to find the years that Tiger Woods went back to back to back?
Had to be early 2000s.
Yeah, 5, 6, and 7. That's what Scottie Scheffler has just done from a financial standpoint. So boring Scottie Scheffler is no more. He is officially the golfer, and he has been for quite a while now. This is no longer a fluke. I mean, this dude, you know, all things considered, what a year, by the way, with the arrest and all that. It's just an unbelievable season. But he's going to have $70 million banked this season. He's going to be the top earner 3 years in a row. He is money anywhere on any course that he has been asked to play on. I don't even know. What do you even think the betting odds are going to be for this guy next year? You know what I mean? Have we ever had a golfer get this close to minus odds on a golf course. He is that player right now.
Yeah, he absolutely is. His last few years, John, I'm going to bring it up. John Rahm going to live for this year.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
It opened up because if you go back to 23, it was Rahm and Scheffler back and forth. And then Rahm not being there this year really opened the door for Scottie to really take over.
It's wild, right? It's like Patrick Mahomes leaving the NFL and Josh Allen just going on a ridiculous run as the top quarterback in football. You know what I mean? But it's not, because they don't compete against each other in that regard. You know what I mean? They're two quarterbacks on two offenses. It's just wild. You just don't see this happen. But the other part of this is, and I guess I haven't done the homework. Do you believe Scottie Scheffler's $70 million is by far the most anybody's ever earned on a PGA season? It's got to be, if not the leader, right? And the leader in the clubhouse, to coin a phrase. Yeah,
because of all these bonuses now that happen. I mean, we can go into the career earnings now because
go ahead.
So Scottie Scheffler now jumps up to third all time in career earnings, and when we talk about that, we're talking official, on course, some majors, some unofficial stuff that we were able to track, the Tour Championship bonus, the PIP bonus, the Comcast Top 10 bonus. So Scottie being third is behind Tiger, who is second. Rory actually jumped over Tiger this year to finish off. He's got 172 million just in PGA. So remember, Rory has played across seas too. Tiger's at 169, and he still earns from the player impact. So he's likely to add to it and jump back up over Rory, depending on how much that comes in for this year. But Tiger missed out on all of these extra bonuses when, even Phil too, because Phil's fourth still at 105 million, but they missed out on all these bonuses. So having all these bonuses plus the enhanced events that the PGA now has, so you can go in and you can win 3.6 million for a winning a tournament. It makes a difference with having these enhanced, and Scottie only had to really play 16 events in total. I mean, he played 19, but the PGA, I believe, says you have to be in 16 of their sanctioned events for certain players. But the money is just going to continue to similar conversation to what we just had in the NBA. It's going to catapult these golfers up the rankings. You would never guess Xander Schauffele is 5 now because of his year. So, Scottie, if he continues this tear, he's going to be extremely high on the career earnings list here.
By the way, Xander's going to pass Phil Mickelson once that PIP kicks in. He's going to be fourth. That's going to happen in a couple of weeks here. Yep. So Xander Schauffele is going to be the fourth highest earning golfer in the history of the PGA within the next month or so. Scottie's going to be third. It's going to be Tiger, then Rory, then Scottie. Here's the thing. Okay. Rory McIlroy is 35 years old. Tiger looks 60 on the course. Scottie Scheffler is 28 years old, Scott. He's 28 years old, and he went back to back top earner. Xander's 30. So I'm glad you brought him into the conversation, because if he has another year, I don't think he's going to win 2 majors again next year. But if he has another year where he's posting like he posted, it's going to be the Scottie and Xander show in terms of bulk, money, and, odds, all those things. I don't think anybody believes Rory at 35 really has another big stretch in him. He's gonna stick around, and he's gonna have his good days and his bad days, and the money's gonna be there, and certainly the PIP is gonna be there for him because of who he is. But one more thing, and we'll get out of here on this. We've said the word live a couple of times. That's obviously where Rahm is, and I don't think Rahm likes being there too much based on a couple of things he said, but he's there. The reason we're having this conversation about $25 million Tour Championship bonuses and PIP and top 10 bonuses and Scheffler and Xander Schauffele this far up the board already is because of Live Golf. There's no other way around this. Phil Mickelson accomplished what he was set out to do, which was put a ton of pressure on a league that was sitting on their hands for 3 decades. And look what happened when they did so. These guys are making triple what they've ever made in their lives, and they are all better for it. Every single golfer is better for it. So I hate to give, a Saudi-based sports league credit, but the reason it exists accomplished what it set out to do. And there's no way you can say otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. From the channels that I listen to and I read, the PGA Tour had this in the plan, but it got accelerated because the LIV came on. So they had to pivot quickly. And so
I'm going to side my house, Scott. It's in my plans to side my house, but guess what? I don't have any contractors called yet.
Right. So this was oh crap. We got to do something to retain the golfers. We got to make these, we got to make these events meaningful. We need to have as many top golfers in as many events as possible. So yeah, we'll reduce the amount of events that you have to be in there. You can miss one. So it's worked because, you're seeing these top golfers at their peak. You're seeing Scottie Scheffler kick butt every time he's on the course. And I'm going to, another NBA reference. He reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich, Duncan. He just churns away. He's not flashy, but he just is there, and he's always at the top. Every time you turn on the TV, the leaderboard, he's within the top 10, and then he comes in for a strike and does what he needs to. But it's good for golf. I like the competition, but like you said, around what he says, he doesn't really like it there. So, and where is the conversation between this quote unquote merger that's going to happen? It's
not even worth talking about.
It's a good time for golf, but it's also a bad time for golf as far as like where is everything going? So we'll see in 25, and keep in mind that, there are tournaments that still happen in the back end of 24 here. So some players will start earning some money in 24. The actual calendar year for, points and whatnot starts in January, but we'll still be tracking the golf earnings as they come through.
Yeah. Scottie Scheffler is the back-to-back PGA GOAT here. He made pop culture history with his arrest. He is by far now the best golfer in the world. And I still think there's a conceivable situation where somebody walks up to him on the street and has no idea who he is. That's who Scottie Scheffler is. In the 2025 season that officially begins in January, like you said, will we see a player leave LIV Golf and try to rejoin the PGA Tour?
I'll say yes.
Yeah, I think it's coming.
I think we're getting close.
I think that's coming. All right. I would be remiss. We've done this for like 15 straight years, so I got to get your Super Bowl picks before we go.
Oh man, I haven't even thought of it.
I mean, the teams. Let's go.
Oh, let's see. Man, he's caught me off guard here.
You know the usual suspects.
Yeah, I know. I do.
A lot of people picking Houston. A lot of people picking Detroit. They're the kind of the flashy.
Yeah. Who are yours? Have you already said? Well, I think
I'm gonna wait till Thursday, so I'm not gonna bury the lead on that one just yet. But I'm not picking either Houston or Detroit. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I will say.
You going for the three-peat?
I'll say Philly.
Okay.
And
I think you should bet that one if you really believe it.
Actually, I think I put a bet in, and it was, to be honest, I put in, I think, Green Bay and Houston. But
let's just go with it then. That's a great pick.
I did it a while ago. All right, I'll say Houston and Green Bay.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick. But you should go bet Philly if you think they're going to be, because the second they win week one.
I don't, but I mean. Okay. San Francisco, who knows with them and their situation?
So Scheffler goes back to back, but you don't think the Chiefs can? Is that what you're saying?
It's funny. I was talking to, I think it was my brother, about this. And, the Chiefs, they went into last season and everyone was so down on the Chiefs. And then all of a sudden we saw them in the end. I would not be shocked if we saw them in the end again because, the being down on them or, even Buffalo, with the offseason that they have, if it comes down to Buffalo, Kansas City in the AFC Championship again, oh my gosh. But, I will not be shocked if we see Kansas City because they just seem to be that team where, all right, we'll put this up on our poster board and we're just going to chip away and shock the world once again.
Yeah, I'm not picking Kansas City. I'll bury that lead as well. But at some point, we're just going to have to look at Patrick Mahomes as we did with Tom Brady and just decide that we can no longer bet against him. We probably should already be there because of all the iterations he's already gone through and has already pulled out. But I just don't know with this roster. That I manually do all these rosters bit by bit, and I just don't know with this one. This one feels like it's a little bit off. Like they didn't really replace L'Jarius Sneed, and he just kind of snuck through the cracks and got traded away, and just feels like there's a miss here or there.
But I feel like at the beginning of last season, we felt the same thing.
Oh yeah, we did.
Hill not there, and the offensive line, they reshifted it, and all of the same kind of conversations.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We're probably all going to regret not betting against or with Patrick Mahomes. But I think I'm going to give it one more season before I feel like a true moron. We'll see. All right, man. Have a good Labor Day, and we will catch up once the NBA starts to get rolling around. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.